Hi everybody, welcome to the Sunset Session brought to you by FlowerHire. Tonight's guest is an amazing cannabis executive and cannabis CMO, Angela Pih.
Hi.
Angela Pih, thanks for joining us. Wow. I hope you have, in cannabis over the last several years, launched an amazing assortment of brands, probably hundreds of SKUs across some of the better known California cannabis companies, Papa Barley, Cannacraft, and obviously, here's some examples of the actual products themselves. You'll see relief and wellness. You'll see lifestyle. You'll see beverage. You'll see products catering towards the habitual cannabis consumer, right? The OG.
More recreational, from wellness
to recreational, right? So I'd like to, thank you for coming to the show. We had a lot to talk about. First thing I want to talk about is talk to me about your experience as a marketing leader before cannabis.
Well, 20 years of working in the agency world in the global stage. So working on brands like Ford, Tylenol, Procter & Gamble, Halston, Sony. So I think I've worked on every single category other than beer before I came into cannabis. I've worked across Canada, North America, all across North America, UK, Asia, and then here in the US. So I try to manage my career in such a way because I always wanted to work around the world.
Well, and you did that. So as an agency marketing executive, like bigger companies in the consumer packaged goods space, basically they outsource innovation, they outsource entire brand creation across trade marketing, digital strategy, what level of responsibility, what's the difference between agency world and internal in terms of how companies use you?
Well, it all starts from the strategy, right? So from the agency side, you're really working with the marketing leads on the client side and looking at, well, what are your goals? Where do you want to be able to either launch your brand, grow your brand, or create a larger audience across all the channels that you have available to you? So it all starts with the business strategy. Then you take that and you basically distill it down to what are the various areas within marketing that I can help, or my team can help the brand and the company to meet those types of goals. And then you dissect it down, you design it, you produce it, you implement it. I think the biggest difference between the agency and the client side is that agencies will create all of the executions, the implementation, but on the client side, you need to own the numbers.
Right.
You're accountable whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah, accountable for budget, accountable for its selling.
Accountable for results.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the excitement of being on the client side. I've been on the client side for about 6 years now.
Yes.
And being able to do all of those things, with, what is it? With power there comes responsibility.
Yeah. Well, but on the agency side, it's like dog years, right? Because you're working with all different types of products, all different types of brands with you may not have numbers oriented goals, but you have execution oriented goals and deliverables.
Yep.
And lots of time pressures and all those things. So you get to touch a little bit of everything.
But it also helps you train to work within multidisciplinary teams, because one person cannot achieve everything.
Right.
You have to really work with the various departments, whether it's production or it's media or it's trade marketing, and to actually bring it all about. So
Right.
working.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
you had basically 8-figure marketing contracts as an agency for very brand name CPG companies, and to deliver that level of service, you're coordinating teams of 15, 20 people
Across the globe, across different time zones, yes.
Yeah, that's a big lift. So wow, and so cannabis was obviously emerging around the time you were looking for your next gig, and talk to me about why cannabis? As a marketer, is it about it's a new category? Is it the plant-based breaking society better aspect? What was it about cannabis, the profession, that was I know I could work for any CPG company that I really wanted to, but I want to take my talents to this space right now? Like, what was that like draw?
I love doing things that hasn't been done before. The road hasn't been paved. There's no roadmap. There's no succinct way in terms of how things are modeled out. So I like the excitement of creating something new. With Papa Barley, that, as you said, is already a category leader. So in order for a brand that already owns that category and is seen as the number one brand, in order for it to grow or outpace the category, it has to grow the industry, which means it has to go out there and find new consumers who we can bring in into being non-cannabis consumers, non-cannabis users, to becoming cannabis consumers. So how do you do that? So education first. It's Papa Barley is very much an education first company and an education first brand. And second is really, being so confident that your products are going to work, that it's going to capture that very first cannabis conversation. So I'm going to talk to you about, it seems like, you want to get a little bit more relief or relaxation.
My back hurts. I don't want to take anything hardcore. My back hurts.
This balm, the topical doesn't get you high. Let's try it. You're going to come back and go, oh my God.
My 95-year-old grandmother uses that, literally.
And she doesn't get high, right?
No, she doesn't get high, for sure, but she relies on it. If she doesn't have it, she's calling me saying, help me get this, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's something that has captured consumers that you wouldn't expect to be cannabis users, right? My 95-year-old grandmother never drank, right?
So we had 3 different column segments of consumers for Papa Barley. You were talking to that daily pain manager, who's your grandmother. You've got who we call our peak performance seekers, who are basically looking to optimize their day with different types of ratios of tinctures. And then you've got who I call our health conscious hustler. She's really looking into more wellness and how wellness helps her have a better day. And she's the gatekeeper of all wellness products into the home. So with those clear segments of consumers in mind, then we're going to then think about what are they looking for emotionally? How are they wanting to feel? And what are their sort of functional benefits that they're looking for the products that they're inviting into their home and actually using for themselves, and more importantly, who they're recommending to their friends and family. So then that's where we grow, right? And then in terms of the retailer side, how are we helping retailers bring more consumers and customers into their store so that they're also growing and thriving? So when you look at the role of brands within cannabis, not only are you looking at growing your customer base from a consumer standpoint, you're also at that intersection of talking to retailers and helping them grow and develop more discipline and more sophistication as part of their own shopping experience.
You have to train that bud tender on how to sell your product and what consumers you're looking for.
Yep. So the stat with bud tenders, I love stats.
Yay, numbers.
Average bud tender tenure is about 6 months from store to store, which means that you need to be going in there.
But there's like 3,000 to 4,000 employed in California
about
right now.
About 4,000.
4,000, there it is.
About 4,000 on average, yeah. And about 70% of consumers walking into a dispensary are undecided. So 7 out of 10 people going in have an opportunity for a bud tender to sway them to purchase a number of products. I'm like, I kind of think what I want, I kind of know what I need, but I'm still open to suggestion. So then you think about that guided shopping experience and how important the role of the bud tender
it's everything. And it's the crucial thing to unlock if you're a brand trying to sell into California cannabis is the bud tender. And some people do it, brands have done it through like kickbacks and gimmicks, but there's education. You're exactly, how can you educate the bud tender about your brand in a way that will stick, that they'll be able to share with your customer.
Yeah,
and make your customer.
At the high point, we had maybe 25 in-house employees who are brand ambassadors for Papa Barley.
Oh yeah, you had an army.
You
had an army, but they were all so fancy. They were all loved what they did so much.
Passionate about
because
the brand.
they believed that they were sincerely helping people because they knew the products were.
You can't succeed unless the people around you want you to succeed. So getting that buy-in, getting that shared mission of what are we trying to do here? What do we want to do? We want to help people feel better. We see, unlocking the power of the plant, regardless of whether it's a better night's sleep, or a little bit more fun at the end of the day. And being able to bring it all about, whether it's through production, procurement, R&D, strategy, sales, retail, everybody, you have to bring it all together. And I think that sometimes when people think about the role of a marketer in cannabis, which is still a very, very young role.
Volatile.
And volatile. A very young and volatile role within cannabis. And I'm like, oh, do you really need a CMO? Or do you just need a brand manager or a project manager? It's a different conversation. But ultimately, can you bring about everybody from different departments and all the disciplines in your company and marshal all of that talent and all of the resources to be able to launch and actually implement on time
correctly. And
so Gem and Jane was launched within 7 months of concept to actual product rolling out the first production line, and because we didn't want to miss the summer beverage season.
Well, Gem and Jane is one of the products that my team really likes.
Yay!
You know, there was a nice enough to be a sponsorship at an event we had at Hall of Flowers, which we much appreciate. But talk to me about Gem and Jane specifically. This was your brand you created for Cannacraft, which has iconic legacy cannabis brands, synonymous with the industry itself, and this is your chance to use that as a platform
Very much so.
to build something new. So talk to me about the thought that went into Gem and Jane and like who's, you know.
I'm a huge believer in the beverage category within cannabis because that's how you can grow the market.
There should be a bar where you can get a 2 milligram beverage.
And we wanted to create a beverage brand for women, and we put together an all-female team at Cannacraft to bring this product to market for this brand. So we wanted more sophisticated flavors. It's low dose. It's less than 5 milligrams, so that you can
feel happy and mellow.
Right?
I like that.
Right? Don't you want to feel happy and mellow with these delicious
please.
Flavors like strawberry hibiscus or elderflower pear? And we wanted to create a brand that you can comfortably, with products that you can comfortably walk around at a barbecue or at a brunch.
It's an energy drink.
That's right.
You know, it looks like every normal beverage. It doesn't look like it's a soda beverage. It looks like a sophisticated beverage for a working woman or mother. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what it looks like.
And the only non-flavored seltzer within the category. So a lot of times when people look, they're all like sugary, bubbly drinks, and I'm like, well, you know what? This is a simple seltzer.
I don't want to drink my calories. I totally get it.
No, you don't.
You know, what are the biggest differences in terms of like being able to execute for delivering viable commercial brands for THC products versus the food and beverage old CPG?
Well, if you think about cannabis being such a highly regulated category or industry versus a traditional CPG, you have fewer channels. You have a very different set of regulatory restrictions. A lot of times when you're going out and creating awareness for your brand, you don't have all of those channels available to you. I can't advertise on Facebook. I can't hit you up on Instagram, you know. So you have to be pretty smart about looking at how can I introduce a new brand to you, or even talk to you about the benefits of some of these products without actually making a claim, because we can't make claims either.
Right, and especially when you're going for the lifestyle and wellness play. Mm-hmm. You have to be very careful.
Right, so very different in terms of how you're really positioning and talking about the products versus, you know, with Farm and the Felon, it's a flower brand. And, you know, flower very prevalent, you're really talking about the nose, you're talking about the potency, you're talking about the terpene combination, and, you know, the origin
it's a
of
flagship sun-grown California flower brand for Cannacraft.
Right.
Versus Gem and Jane.
Versus Gem and Jane. So with Papa Barley, 1% for the planet. With Farmer and Felon, 1% to Last Prisoner Project. So that social equity part of it is really important for cannabis brands that are really looking at, we're prospering, but we also want to make sure that we want to be that rising tide.
You feel, though, safe in terms of culturally, in terms of appreciated, your ideas, like... Because I find that like in the industry, there needs to be more representation, especially in leadership ranks across the industry, and that's something that we're conscious of at FlowerHire and always thinking about in our own recruitment efforts. But you know, I do believe that it is an industry where it does embrace people that look at things differently, come from different backgrounds, when they can work together around the same mission.
Well, if you look at your market is diverse. It doesn't represent one type of race or gender, it represents all. So if you're able to bring different voices with different perspective into your executive team, at Cannacraft, about 3/4 of it are women in terms of the executive team. The board is also pretty diverse. You wouldn't have thought that, but actually it is true.
I believe that they've been ahead of the curve in a lot of ways, for a very long time.
But there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in our industry for it to continue to be more diverse, more representation, and in doing so, have a much wider and open-minded appeal for everybody. So it is still a startup industry.
Still startup, yeah, absolutely.
It's still startup. The road hasn't been paved yet. We're still building it. We're still hacking through.
A lot of marketers connect with the idea of wanting to take their talents to this industry. What is it that you look for, you think is important when hiring marketing at any level, whether it's brand management, marketing operations, or even a marketing leader to be successful in cannabis? Like, what do you look for?
The number one thing is you have to have a level of comfort and familiarity with cannabis, that you have an experience with the plant. And then second to that is, what is your experience with the plant? Are you a consumer? Are you someone who is really looking at cannabis to help you feel better, or looking at cannabis in terms of culturally having a great time? That level of experience, I think, is really critical. Second, I hire for softer skills rather than functional. Like, I can teach
collaborators that
I can
are
hire. I can
proactive?
teach you how to do things, but I can't teach you how to be a good human.
Hey, you choose who you work with, right?
You do.
There's no, like, with the brilliant jerks idea, right?
There's no asshole policy. Like, I won't hire you if you don't play well in the sandbox, that you're not willing to grind until it's done, and really embrace the sense that you're just one of many. So, the functional abilities in terms of commitment to learn, to being constantly curious, and this whole idea of, oh, that's not my lane. I don't believe in lanes. I think that if you are going to be someone who's going to prevail and learn in an industry that's still growing, that has a punishing schedule, is you have to be curious and learn about every single aspect of what you're doing. One of the things I really value during my time at Cannacraft is how I was able to really learn about the entire supply chain. So not just a marketing discipline, not about just sales and the role of sales strategy and marketing strategy and bring a product to market, but the entire supply chain. I was able to get the visibility into the entire supply chain, because understanding where all of those pitfalls are and how that can stall your launches or actually make it successful is so important.
It is so important, and that's what being a classically trained, marketing leader from the CPG world, coordinating resources and budgets and time to get things done. Like, that's why there's a lot of, marketing leaders in executive roles across cannabis, and I think starting to be more so as the industry matures and more companies try to really put a focus on the customer commercialization, right? Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see a lot of that. My last question for you is, I think that working in cannabis for the right person is unique in that there's alignment. You can be who you want to be at work. You go into work, you work, and you make sure you're making the world a better place. Like, you feel like you're paying for yourself and your lifestyle, and you can apply your talents to it, right? It's an alignment thing for the right people. And, it's creative entrepreneurial people solving complex problems together, but with lots of uncertainty and stress and an ever-changing landscape, right? Like, so it's definitely not for everybody, but like, what type of people, like, why do you see people that, in terms of your experience working here, that, like, they view that in the same way? Like, what is it about cannabis that makes it a special industry to work in?
I think it's the community. It's a community of people who feel that the more they bring to the to achieving what the common goal is, the more the more they can get out of it. So people who believe in building communities, and I think with cannabis, that's very different from other industries, is it can activate so quickly.
You know, and I think it is an industry because it's a commercially viable, money-making sector of the economy, but it is a community.
Yep.
That is 100% correct, and you know, building community, extending your values, your community outward to invite other people to share in it. It's a special feeling when you go into work every day to create that, be part of that, right?
So remember what it was like at Hall of Flowers? It was like going back to school. You hadn't seen all your friends for months.
The in-person events have been such a bonus this year coming back, and obviously it's still tense out there in the world here in
You still have to be
November
safe,
2021.
but just to be able to see your friends and, you know, be an in-person event, have a dinner, you know, share a sesh, has just been really valuable. And, you know, if you think about cannabis in general, it's innately social.
Well, and being in person reminds you of, you know, the great people that are trying to push this industry forward on a daily basis, right? And provides more gas in the tank, you know.
It sure does. And a lot of times when you think about, you know, the potential of cannabis, and we're like really just scratching the surface of what that potential is. If you look down the supermarket aisle, right, and you go, wow, look at all the products that are available in the supermarket. All of those could be cannabis products. So we've barely scratched the surface just with what we have on the table here.
Right.
And we're not even talking about building materials, we're not talking
We're not talking about an industry that's legal.
about
We're
textiles.
We're still committing felonies having this in our office right now, right? Like let's not forget, right? So
No, regulation can turn on a dime.
right. But Angela, I've really enjoyed this. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.